How's it going, everybody? My name is Infamous Isaac, and I'm here with a video on Star Wars because I'm making a tier list on it. I put all 9 movies in the trilogy, prequel, sequel, original trilogy, into one big tier list, and I'm going to be talking about them in a video since this is going to be like the penultimate. This is how I feel about all of these. Actually, dang, I should have did a tier list on the Spider-Man movies. Now that I think about it, I could have just made a tier list on them instead of just doing the whole trilogy stuff and all that. But I'm not upset with how I did the video, so maybe I'll do a tier list on it later in the future. But anyways, Star Wars. So the first movie, you know, the worst one, the caca brown color, and then the Kingdom Hearts is a light color, all the way up at the top is from worst to best. So with that in mind, let's get into it. Rise of Skywalker. The negatives for me completely outweighed the positives. Like, I was bored for a good majority of this movie, but at the same time, the positives from this movie, they were good enough to put it like in a 5 range, excuse me. The positives in this movie were fun and they were great, especially considering I was watching these movies from original to prequel to sequel. So seeing all this build up, it was like, yo, I was getting emotional. And it definitely deserved to get me emotional because at the end of the movie it was great. It was good. But the enjoyment that I got from that ending was more like all of it catching up to me, realizing that this was the last Star Wars movie in terms of like the trilogy. So everything that I watch from here on is going to be like segments or sections of the trilogy that we didn't get to see in the movies. So it kind of got me emotional. But enjoyment that I got from that is different from the enjoyment I get from other movies that are higher up in the list. So this Rise of Skywalker, I'm placing it at the bottom. And by the way, I don't want to make it seem like the movies at the bottom aren't good movies. They're all right to great. I don't like a good Star Wars movie is better than most movies, and a bad Star Wars movie is better than most movies. So it's like this isn't the worst that it could possibly be, but it's not the best, especially considering what's all the way up top. But Rise of Skywalker at the very bottom for me. Then The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi, in terms of like enjoyment, was actually smaller than The Rise of Skywalker, but the the movies like 2/3 of the movie were just boring to me. They weren't bad. The Rise of Skywalker, I was just struggling to be like, oh shoot, this is like rough. And even in The Last Jedi, if anything, it should be below The Rise of Skywalker. But legit, I was just watching the Last Jedi. I was questioning things about so many characters, and I was just saying, they're like, why is this happening? Why are things progressing like this? I don't know, but the enjoyment that I got from some of this actually left me like hype. While I was sad here, sad but hopeful, here I was just hyped because of Holdo and well the carrier, I guess the carrier ship. That scene was really cool. You have all that going on, and you have the end battle. I forgot, like in space, yeah, in space. That was cool. Oh, I forgot to mention, Palpatine scene in the beginning was what brought it down for me because it felt like it just got rushed in, so I didn't like it that much. That brought it down for me. Here, it still felt a little cohesive, but not that cohesive. The enjoyment I got from it was cool, CGI. It was sick, but it wasn't that great. So this one is second to worst. Then we get to the Empire Strikes Back, right? And this I feel like might be a little bit of a controversial take because a lot of people like this movie, but I didn't. I didn't like it because I was just bored through halfway through the movie, and I wasn't interested until Luke came back. But with this movie, I like them better than both of these combined. The Empire Strikes Back is a better movie than these two. That's why it's in the orange territory because it's close to green, but it's not better than the movies up above. Like you can even see like the Phantom Menace a little bit. But the Empire Strikes Back, you have iconic scenes like Luke, I'm your father, him losing his arm, Yoda being introduced in this movie. You have Han and Chewie and Leia being together, R2D2, C3PO. You have Lando Calrissian, and it's like that's cool and all. But when I was watching this movie, it didn't matter to me because I didn't know who Lando Calrissian was, or I didn't know how important he would be. I knew Han, Chewie, Leia, Luke, and all these people were important, but in terms of the movie, I only really cared when Luke was on screen for the most part because Leia and Han were just being captured all the time, and I just thought like, dang, this is interesting to me. But The Empire Strikes Back, a better movie than these two for sure because these two they take the side characters and they just turn them into chop liver, bro, or the main characters and turn them into chop liver. Finn, Poe, all the robots, the droids, Leia, Luke, Han, they're just side characters. It sucks. Like the main characters for sure are Rey and Ben, or excuse me, Kylo Ren. Which like it sucks because even then, I wish they got handled a little better. But you know, I'm not a writer, so I can't say how they should be handled. But anyways, The Empire Strikes Back, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. Two of the sequel trilogy in the bottom, one of the original trilogy at the bottom. Next, we get into the prequel trilogy, The Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace is where I say the good movies start coming in. Even though it's at the yellow tier, this movie I give it a 7 out of 10. And for me, I was bored in like some sections or confused in others where like the intro to the movie, it just kept us going. Like Han or not Han, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn just going to different places, meeting Jar Jar Binks and going to Tatooine and all that. It's like, oh shoot, we're just moving along. All right, cool. And it was like, okay, I'm a little confused, but all right, whatever. And at a certain point, I was a little bored because once they got to Tatooine, I was like, ah, okay, whatever. Things are moving along. Because you have Jar Jar Binks there, you have Padme, all of them. But I wasn't interested until Anakin showed up, and even then, Anakin isn't in his peak here. But once Anakin showed up and the pod racing started happening, that was really cool. Because the pod racing in this movie was really well done. I loved it. Like usually races like that in movies I don't care about, but it was so cool. It was actually so cool. So I gotta give it its props. I gotta give it its flowers. The pod racing in this movie was fire. And then you have Qui-Gon Jinn versus Darth Maul. You have the fights going on. You have the Jar Jar Binks' tribe versus the droids. That was really cool. But overall, this movie compared to the other two in the prequel trilogy, it's the worst one. But it's not bad. It's definitely better than the movies below it. But compared to the other two in the prequel trilogy, it's not the greatest. But Phantom Menace left in the past. Now we go to The Force Awakens, the final movie in the sequel trilogy. This is the first movie in the sequel trilogy as well. This one, I feel like was a good movie. I actually enjoyed it more than The Phantom Menace because as a whole movie, it was interesting. From beginning to end, it was a good movie. Legit. I liked watching The Force Awakens. And I don't know if people share the same thought or opinion, but one of my friends who, was talking about Star Wars in the comments, like watch it or whatever, he actually likes The Force Awakens as well, so I don't know if it's an uncommon opinion or not, but I thought it was a good movie from Finn to Rey, Poe, BB-8 being introduced. You have the cool storyline with the silver droid or the silver stormtrooper. I wish more could have been done with her, but the fact that she's there is cool, you know. You have Kylo Ren being a menace here. You have Snoke. I wish we did more for him, which sucks because he just gets in the second movie. But Snoke was interesting. Could have been cooler, but he was alright. You have Han being here, his relationship to Kylo Ren showing like he could be a good father. It's just he's still stuck in his ways, you know. You have Chewie being there to support him, all that going on. One thing I don't like about this is Luke and his character decisions. How Luke running away from the Force and but wanting to kill the Jedi Order is like, yeah, that doesn't sound like him, especially in the Last Jedi. That no none of those sound like Luke Skywalker. But it's not as egregious here as it is in the other movies, so I give it a pass. But The Force Awakens, genuinely a good movie. If you want a good movie to watch from the sequel trilogy, I know if you say that one. I definitely say that one. The other two, it depends on what you like or not, but The Force Awakens, good movie. Then you have A New Hope. A New Hope is a really good movie. the the intro to A New Hope is like, yo, this is the start of Star Wars. And even when you don't have that grand look at it, like looking through all the movies and seeing everything, this movie is good. This movie is actually good. From Luke just being an innocent, bright-eyed kid, and Han being, Han and Chewie, you have Obi-Wan there. like not knowing anything about Star Wars. These characters are cool. These characters are fun. The banter is fun. The situations that they're placed in is cool. The death of the Death Star, bro. This movie is just it's good to watch. It's the same way like The Force Awakens is. Without knowing anything about these characters, these two movies are good to watch. So, like you don't need context to know what's happening because you'll get the context from watching the movies. And while I didn't know much about Star Wars, I did know some things from A New Hope. And even with knowing that, this movie was good. The movie was actually good. So I gotta put it higher. I gotta put it higher than most movies because it was good. Actually, wait. Okay, yeah, there you go. That's why. Alright, so that's three right there. You have three right here. So then next is Return of the Jedi. So if you know the names of the movies, you already know what's gonna be up in the top two. It's just which order it's gonna be in. But Return of the Jedi is the final movie in the original trilogy, and man, this movie did not disappoint. From the beginning to the end, with Luke being a lot older, Han and Leia being parts of the rebels, Chewie, R2D2, uh, C3PO, all those people. You have Lando Calrissian coming back. Like all these characters are, they're great. They're lovable. I don't mean to say that like The Force Awakens or any of that trilogy or The Phantom Menace don't have lovable characters. I love all the characters from them, or most of the characters. It's just Return of the Jedi, since this is the original trio and the original crew in general, they just mesh so well. They're so good. Like I don't remember if George Lucas, how he contributed, but it's obviously it's his property. But the Return of the Jedi, the characters here, they just feel like genuine friends. Like Luke and Han feel like brothers. Leia and Luke feel like sister or brother and sister. Lando and Han have that brother like kinship. Chewie and Han have that as well. C3PO and R2D2 have that as well. You have Luke and Anakin at the end of the movie. That feels like a fatherly relationship at the end of it. Like Palpatine and Anakin. They may not have the best relationship because it's manipulative, but it felt like they had something there, like apprenticeship and all that, but also somewhat of a father figure as well. It's like the characters in the movie were great. The scenes in this movie were great. The CGI wasn't the best, but it's held up together by the other things that I mentioned. This movie is good. It's fun to watch. It's great, and it's a good way to end the sequel trilogy or the prequel trilogy. But now we're moving in to the prequel stuff. Attack of the Clones. If you know, you know what's at the top. But Attack of the Clones actually blew my socks off, bro. At first, I was like, oh, okay, Attack of the Clones, it's cool. You have young Padawan Anakin, you have Obi-Wan now, Qui-Gon Jinn is gone, you have Yoda, Mace Windu, you have Padme, all these people being reintroduced. You have Palpatine as well. Darth Maul is gone, but you have Count Dooku in his stead. Oh my gosh, I have to say Attack of the Clones and honestly the prequel trilogy, best fights hands down. I didn't mention it in the Phantom Menace, but Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul was one of the coolest fights I've seen up to that point in Star Wars because the original trilogy didn't have good fights because it was limited by its technology. The sequel trilogy wasn't limited by its technology, but it just didn't have good fights to compare. And then you have the prequel trilogy. The prequel trilogy had amazing fights, top tier battles, lightsaber battles. It used the force, but at the same time, it was all about the lightsabers, and it was so cool, so cool because you had so many different styles of fighting. Like Count Dooku was different from Yoda, Anakin and Obi Wan were different from each other. You have everybody fighting, bro, and it was so good. It was so good. The places here, the planets that you went to, the CGI, like the clones, it's nostalgic for me because I used to watch Clone Wars when I was a kid. So it was like, oh shoot, this is fire. I love it. So part of it is nostalgia talking, but at the same time, part of it like or a lot of it is me actually just liking the movie. Attack of the Clones was a really good movie, and what solidified it for me was the battle on Geonosis. Jango Fett. I keep forgetting his name. His name is Jango Fett. But yeah, that battle against Obi-Wan as well. It's just like you have so many good things in Attack of the Clones. I can't understate it or I can't overstate it enough. This movie is great. If like if the next movie above wasn't as good as it was, Attack of the Clones would have been the best movie, for sure. And it's been a week since I watched this movie, compared to like Rise of the Skywalker and The Last Jedi, where I barely remember what happened in them. Attack of the Clones, I remember like it was like the back of my hand. It was so good. This movie was awesome. But the movie to beat it, of course, was Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith, if it didn't exist, Attack of the Clones would have held reign. But it's too good. This movie's actually too good. If people say this movie's a 10, I can understand why. If people say this movie's a 9, I can understand why. Anything below that, I don't understand. This movie is amazing. It's actually the best movie in all of Star Wars. Like, in terms of the trilogies, from what I've seen, this is the best movie. No holds bar, hands down. The best Star Wars movie, in my opinion. If you disagree with me, I'll be interested to see what yours is, and I'll respect it. But for me, this movie, peak. Revenge of the Sith is the best Star Wars movie in my opinion. And here's why, right? The CGI at its best, the character writing at its best, the characters period at their best. You have the lightsaber battles at their best, the planets, the scenery at their best. Mustafar is such a cool place to have a final showdown in contrast to the audience chamber the in Palpatine's office, where you have Yoda versus Palpatine, you have Anakin versus Obi-Wan. That had those contrasting each other was so cool, actually so cool, and I can't understate it enough. Many good fights. It's hard to pick which one's my favorite. It's actually so hard because the lightsaber battles are just so good. I actually can't get over it. You have again Count Dooku versus Obi-Wan and Anakin in the beginning of the third movie as well. And you have Anakin with his best drip here. You have Obi-Wan looking pretty iconic here. I like his longer hair in the second movie, but Obi-Wan here is pretty iconic. You have General Grievous as well. He's good. Probably the weaker one out of all three villains. You have Darth Maul, Count Dooku, and General Grievous. Count Dooku is at the top for me, then Darth Maul, then General Grievous. But he was cool. Grievous was cool. You have iconic General Kenobi. Like, oh man, this movie was great. This movie was actually peak, and I can go on for so long talking about it, but I wouldn't get anywhere. I would just say the same things over and over again. So that's that. That's the Star Wars movie tier list with Rise of Skywalker, The Last Jedi, The Empire Strikes Back, Phantom Menace, The Force Awakens, A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, Attack of the Clones, and at the very, very top, Revenge of the Sith, with the lowest of lows in the Star Wars universe being the highest of highs at the bottom, and the lowest of lows being the highest at the top of the tier list. It's rough. If that makes any sense, it's rough. But man, my favorite character, Anakin for sure. My favorite character in the series has to be Anakin. From before I watched the movies to after, Anakin is still my favorite character. The favorite movie again, Revenge of the Sith. Favorite fight, it's difficult. It's a tie between Yoda versus Palpatine and Anakin versus Obi-Wan. But the favorite planet for sure, Mustafar, no doubt. Favorite scene, shoot, that's a difficult one. But maybe the at the end of the battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin, the I hate you and all that. Or Anakin going to kill the younglings and Qui-Gon Jinn being there like, Anakin, no! That scene is funny but really messed up. Like, man, the MVP of the original trilogy, Luke, without no doubt. The MVP of the sequel trilogy for me has to go to Poe, honestly. I really liked Poe. Like, really, really liked Poe. And MVP of the prequel trilogy, just Anakin, no doubt. Anakin, for sure, is the MVP. And did I enjoy my time going through these movies? Yeah, wholeheartedly. I loved going through Star Wars. It was awesome. And it's not done. I still have a bunch of other movies to watch, other shows to watch, and just other things to do with Star Wars. So this isn't the end of it for now. This is definitely not the end. But this is the chapter closing for now. The same way I did with Spider-Man, and the same way I'm doing with this. So that's the end of it. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoy. And this has been Infamous Isaac telling you guys to have a great day. Well, hoping that you guys have a great day. I'll see you all in the next video. And hopefully, with more Star Wars to come at some point, or a new series, or a new, like, a piece of entertainment. I don't know how to describe it. But yeah, I'll check you out in the next video. Peace.